Something rather silly from the likes of Rolf Harris. Mind you, I say silly, Two Little Boys has got its own message, hasn't it? You'll have to excuse me for a minute or two now while I play the next record, simply because I've got one or two things to say about my hometown to one or two people who might remember the days of, well, big factories and bustling, hustling local shop centres. I'll be back with you on the radio after the next record. Well, whilst I leave the music to the rest of the listening audience, I'll introduce myself. I'm Alan Jackson. I've been with the BBC a few years, but I've been a Prescotian for nigh on 40. You've got to say it quickly, haven't you? Put your ears on you. You can see the bit of grey. I hope this is in colour. I was brought up in Derby Square. I wonder how many of you remember Derby Square. It's no longer there, unfortunately. There's some advertising hoardings now, hiding many, many memories. A very busy main road, which we don't tend to have these days, Warrington Road, of course, being bypassed by the motorways. And I always remember going to the board school. I still don't know what its official title was. I think it's an educational centre now, I presume. And we always used to scramble around the back entries. And going back to Prescot, as I did just the other day, I was saddened in one way and yet heartened in another. Many of the places that I used to play around myself have disappeared completely. And yet Prescot has still got a heart. People from Prescot are still Prescotians. They haven't really been swallowed in by the, overspill, should we say, of Merseyside. Because in my day, and maybe yours, it was Lancashire. And to a lot of Prescotians, it still is Lancashire, really, in many, many ways. There was the Prescot Primary School that I used to go to, Maryville Road. I always remember being most embarrassed in playing for the football team, the first team at Maryville Road, and being beaten by the C of E school at the top of Beaconsfield Street, I think it was. They had about 12 to choose from, and we had, 200-300, and we were beaten. I've never lived down that particular day of walking home and telling my dad, who was football man, that we'd been beaten by the C of E school. But, well, that's what makes, they say, the man, isn't it? Disappointments and happy days as well. I tell you something that just quickly comes to mind. The parish rooms. They used to have dances on a Saturday night there, and I used to remember when the 60s was in full flow. We had our own groups from Prescot. We had the Mark IV, and the one group that really did pull them in was the Riot Squad. Great names, they made a din, I know that. And the parish rooms, normally sedate for months on end, would spring to life. And just across from the parish rooms, I wonder how many of you remember the trolley buses turning round. Great stuff. I mean, they were monsters in their own right to a little lad like myself. And of course the conductor had to come off and move the I don't know what they used to call it, the extension from the lines round, so the trolley bus could go off to St Helens. Don't remember trams. They were a little bit before my time, but trolley buses now remind me of the fish shop opposite Clegg's Laundry by the parish rooms. And as a little lad I used to be fascinated not only by the look of the different fish, but the smell as well. And staying up that part of Prescot, we never used to call Eccleston Street Eccleston Street. It always used to be up the street. Everybody knew where up the street was. I know they're redeveloping the place now, but to me, as a lad growing up in Prescot, that was as near as I would get to, say, Liverpool, because we never used to go to, there was no need to go to Liverpool, don't even bother to go to St Helens. In fact, that was something that made Prescot unique, I think, in its own area, was that people of Prescot invariably stayed in Prescot. And waking up as a little lad, and in fact going to school, I was invariably wakened by the 5 to 7 buzzer. And if I didn't get up with that one, it was the 5 to 8. I'm talking, of course, of the B.I.C.C. Nearly everybody worked at the B.I., didn't they? If it wasn't the B.I., it was Tinlings. And at the back of Tinlings, I don't know whether they know this, or knew, I don't know what it's like now, but they used to have a dump of a field behind Tinlings. We used to scramble through bent railings to get to the grammar school field to play football. And the number of times we were chased by the cocky watchman at the grammar school and picking up the coats and running brings back lovely memories. Of course, as you can probably deduce, I was brought up with sport. And Prescot Cables have got to come into this, haven't they? I don't know whether they're called Prescot Town now. I think they reverted back to their name, haven't they? Prescot Cables. I used to remember going up to the open anchor and smelling the ale, not being able to go in, of course, but wondering what this word pub was all about. And standing at the top of Hope Street, waiting for the visitors' coach to arrive and wondering what colour they were going to play in. And the marvellous names of the visitors, because around Prescot they'd have these fixture labels all over the shops telling you who the Cables were playing that week. And there was towns like Padiham and Nelson and Chorley, Orwich, RMI. And you'd wonder what colour they were playing, how they'd get on against the Cables. And I realised a childhood ambition, a little later in life, in playing for the Cables, and always giving a wave and a nod to Bert Taylor, who I think is the president now of the club, and rightly so too. A man who's given a lot of time and energy to proposing sport to the likes of us Prescotians. And, well, Cables to me, Prescot Cables, I know they probably did start off associated with the B.I., but Hope Street and the burning down of the stand, the old wooden stand. And then they built, oh dear me, a massive stand that would befit Everton. And that really, I think, was the undoing of Cables. Financially, they never recovered from all that. And the massive crowds they used to get when they used to play New Brighton and Wigan disappeared with the car, and Liverpool and Everton and the media and television. And, well, Prescot may have lost a little along the way, but hopefully it's still got a lot of pride about itself, which is why the lads who are making this particular film now are hoping that people who watch it will smile a little along the way and still be proud to be known as Prescotians. I certainly am. My record's about to finish, so I've got to get back to the BBC. Nice to talk to you. And there, a nice little something from the likes of the Beatles. 4 marvellous lads. You're with Alan Jackson, this is the BBC. What we were doing in between those records, I wouldn't like to say. But maybe one day you'll find out. Eh? You never.